I'm Charlie Brooker and you're watching Screenwipe, which for 1 week only is a programme all about television advertising. As long as there's been men, there's been salesmen. As long as there's been salesmen, there's been the great taste of advertising. Adverts have been with us for thousands of years. The first recorded ones turned up in ancient Egypt written on papyrus. Newspapers started carrying adverts in the 17th century, and almost immediately a code of regulatory standards had to be introduced because the claims they made were pretty much printed in bullshit. As the media grew more sophisticated, so did the ads. The first advert on British TV was this thing for Gibbs SR toothpaste in 1955. It's actually got a lot in common with modern-day ads. There's a graph that's utterly useless because it doesn't have any numbers on it, and a sciencey sounding magic ingredient.
The tingle in SR comes from sodium ricinoleate.
Old adverts are like little nostalgia bombs, really. Each one sums up the era in which it appeared in an instant. 60s ads are cool and swinging.
With your feet on the ground, yes, every pair you wear.
The 70s ads are sort of brown and grotty, whereas the 80s were characterised by power ballads and absolute swaggering f***ery like this.
You're looking sharp, you're looking good, you've come so far.
Yeah!
Relax, the best a man can get.
You know, if the best a man can get is a razor, that's probably why male suicide rates are so high. 90s ads were all huggy-wuggy and sophisticated, whereas the noughties can't decide if they're all troubled and weird, or inspirational, like this bloke whose cycling glory has prompted an identity crisis.
I am who I am, because of everyone.
In summary, then, everyone's to blame for this. But there's one common thing that unites every generation of adverts, and that's that they've all featured a prime selection of absolute aching great cocks. At number 10, friend chips, cock chips more like.
Okay, what's this one?
I don't know, a prick with some crisps in his hand.
I'm not sure if I'm entirely happy with this manicure.
Battle chips.
I wonder if this was as much fun to make as it is to watch.
You know what I mean, Harry?
Oh, f*** off. At number 9, calm down, dear, it's only an abomination.
Unbelievable that some insurance companies don't want to insure me.
It's more unbelievable that someone will employ you. I think that's his O face.
Calm down, dear. It's a commercial. I'm only acting. I'm really a very good driver.
To be fair, this is better than Death Wish. At number 8, it's Judgment Day at the Jumble Sale.
Pat, this isn't Nescafe.
Pat, you bitch!
Oh, it probably is Nescafe, but in a different jar.
Oh, don't you know anything, Pat, you f***ing idiot?
Nescafe don't make coffee for anyone else. You're right. That's Nescafe, all right. And this? Let's forget it, shall we?
No, Pat, we won't forget it. We'll never forget what you did here today, you stupid turncoat whore. George Orwell called advertising the rattling of a stick inside a swill bucket, but it's actually an incredibly creative industry. And to find out just how creative it is, we spoke to an advertising insider. For legal reasons, I have to point out our insider is played by an actor in a wig. So you're in advertising, yes?
Yeah,
Sorry, that was a reflex action.
that's all right.
Oh, in that case, well, sorry.
That's fine.
Anyway, perhaps you could start by telling us exactly what sort of is attracted to advertising in the first place.
Well, a lot of people have the idea that working in advertising gives you some kind of creative freedom. Well, it don't. They siphon off any interesting thoughts you might have and use them all to sell boring everyday household objects like cat food.
So any creativity is hamstrung.
Well, that's assuming there was any creativity in the first place. A lot of ad agencies just don't care. They're just after new ideas and don't care where, how or who they get them from. Now, for the most part, advertising creative means person who spends a long time on the internet every day looking for other people's cool ideas that can be stolen and used to sell stuff.
Clients, what are they like?
They're the least creative people in the industry. They're the number crunchers, the marketing types. They understand branding, market share, and little else.
And would they actually come on a shoot?
Fuck yeah. When you're shooting, there's a cable running out the back of the camera into a nearby room where the image you're making is being watched by anything up to 30 people. Ad agencies, creatives, account people, clients and so on, all of whom will have an opinion on the shot that's being set up. Once they've deliberated and some kind of moronic consensus has been achieved, a lackey walks back to the studio floor to tell the director what changes they want to make. It's a bit like trying to write a book while the editor, publisher and printer stand over your shoulder, nudging your arm and saying, don't push that key, push that one, no, that one.
What sort of thing are they looking out for?
Well, the load is a good one, normally pertaining to chewing gum or confectionery. That's the moment where the sweet is popped into the mouth. It's the loading moment.
Right, so the director's shooting a load into the actress's mouth.
Different gum companies have different ways they like their gum loaded. They publish booklets for directors to study so that the load is uniform across their ads. On any shoot, there'll probably be one poor sod from the client side whose sole job is to ensure that the load goes off according to company guidelines. If they come home without a proper loading shot, that poor fucker gets the sack.
Real-life ad men are completely horrible, obviously, and I say that with the absolute authority of someone who doesn't actually know any of them. But fictional ad men, them I like, especially these ones. Mad Men is a superb drama serial currently being repeated on BBC4, detailing the lives of a group of 1960s advertising wizzos at the fictional Sterling Cooper agency. It's a heady mix of Hitchcockian glamour, intrigue, nostalgia, and scenes in which a silver-haired gentleman unexpectedly impersonates a fountain. Whoa, 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 whoa! That's not an impromptu tribute to Little Britain, by the way. It's a consequence of the sort of poor health choices most of the characters make. As befits the period, everyone in Mad Men smokes like they're trying to turn their lungs into a solid carbon block. And drinks like a divorcee at Christmas. It's surprisingly shocking to modern eyes, as is the casual chauvinism exhibited by each of the main characters.
Well, you're in the city now. Wouldn't be a sin for us to see your legs. If you pull your waist in a little bit, you might look like a woman.
The unfortunately named John Hamm plays the main character, Donald Draper. On the surface, the epitome of the clean-cut American businessman. Inside, a confused serial adulterer with a mysterious past that I won't spoil for those of you who haven't seen it, because I'm nice. Don occasionally knocks heads with up-and-coming whippersnapper Peter Campbell, an icily fascinating cold steel pebble of a thing, played to eerie perfection by Vincent Kartheiser. There's also Peggy Olson, ambitious secretary and one of the quirkiest TV characters in a long while. One of the keys to the show is that everyone's hiding something, and half the time you're not really sure quite what, and neither are they. Despite their outer confidence, none of them seem to really know what they want, and even the closest relationships are somehow distant, as though they're being conducted through a thick layer of perspex. Just like advertising, it's all about the tension between the reality and the presentation. Mad Men operates in vaguely similar territory to Life on Mars in that it makes the past seem like not just a foreign country, but a completely different continent.
Now try not to be overwhelmed by all this technology. It looks complicated, but the men who designed it made it simple enough for a woman to use. I sure hope so.
The first season of Mad Men is a slow burner, but it's well worth catching up with. The second series starts on BBC4 next year, so this whole bit's been like an advert for that. I'm a whore.
Ombudsman cigarettes, good for you, good for your baby.
Early adverts were prone to making rash claims. That's the trouble with advertising. It's an exercise in persuasion, and when you're trying to persuade somebody to do something, it's tempting to get economical with the truth. Miss Object, did you know that me and my wife have got an open relationship? Fortunately, there are loads of guidelines to keep ads on the straight and narrow. Here are just a few of them.
The following products are unacceptable. Betting tips, pornography, psychic practices and exorcism, all tobacco products.
Although tobacco wasn't always taboo. Until 1965, it was fine to advertise cigarettes on the box. In this exciting ad, some commoners were even encouraged to smoke more than one at a time to see which they preferred.
Each of them is smoking 2 cigarettes, an untipped cigarette and a churchman's tip. Which cigarette do you prefer? This one.
Smoking wasn't the sole preserve of real people. Even the cuddlesome, lovable Flintstones did their bit peddling yabba dabba death. Sadly, shortly after that was shot, he was diagnosed with cancer of the caveman.